My name is Steve Sloan. I'm the Chief Operator at the East End Treatment Facility for the Portland Water District. We discharge roughly 21, 22, 23 million gallons per day during dry weather flow. During wet weather flow, we see flows into the 80 million gallon range from this treatment facility. Growing up on the bay, I grew up in South Portland. I know that we used to swim and would selectively choose swimming at high tide because of the pollution, the open discharge pipes all along the city, the shoreline. I know that when I was in my teens that we'd take a rowboat over from South Portland and use the East End pool because the beach was so polluted, and you couldn't swim on the East End beach was closed and pollution, and you couldn't swim there, so we'd use the city of Portland's pool. So that's what we grew up with in the late 50s and early 60s and in the early 70s until Senator Muskie was instrumental in establishing the Clean Water Act. So the bay wasn't Back Cove. You couldn't. I don't remember too much about it, but I do know that the smell was atrocious. You couldn't walk the bay like you do today. I was a teenager, and I remember one of the older, well, I say older, but he was probably a couple of years older than us, and there was a dogfish carcass going by, where we used to swim in South Portland at it's Centerboard Yacht Club now. It used to be the public boat launch. And we used to swim there, and we were diving off the wall, and the older fellow said, make sure you don't hit that fish because it was decaying, and plus I guess it has a bone in it that you'd really get real sick on it. And I remember that. I can still picture that fish floating by, and we were waiting before we dove in the water for that to leave. And you don't see that stuff today. And then, of course, in 1979, this plant came online and things changed, and we've been making progress ever since.